There we are. We're live. I don't know. That was like a delay that I've never experienced before. Is that perhaps because of the content we're going to be talking about tonight? I have no idea. But welcome, everybody, to this special impromptu show. And Jeff Evely is joining me today. Jeff Evely and I have been friends for a good amount of time now. We got together because of, the the propensity of our government to want to strip us of our liberties. We're both very liberty-oriented people, and Jeff here has fought for our liberties overseas, and he's done the big thing that a lot of people don't step up and do. Thank you so much for your service, Jeff, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, bro. Thanks for having me back. It's great to be here.
So the big thing in the news right now, of course, is you. You've made the news. You've made the news, and it's one of those ones where it's funny because it's a case of, well, twist my rubber arm, then won't you? Right? So. Yeah. I've read your post about how last go around during COVID, they shut down the forest, they shut down the woods, they shut down everything. We weren't allowed to exercise. We weren't allowed to. A weird one too, because we're talking about a respiratory disease. You think you'd want to be more healthy in case you got it, then get out and start exercising. But they were thwarting people from being able to do that. Obviously, you look very fit. You're a healthy man, and you you take care of yourself, and you get out and you go out into the woods. Obviously, you have a dog as well, and that's another reason to get out and go into the woods. And just being Canadian, it's a thing we all do. I spent the weekend out in the woods. This is a national pastime. So you challenged this in court the last go around during COVID, and then they told you, well, it's moot. Tell me about that.
Okay, so one small correction there. It wasn't during COVID that I brought the challenge forward. It was during the 2023 Nova Scotia wildfires. And what happened in 2023 is they put the blanket ban across the entire province while the wildfires were ongoing. I live on Cape Breton Island. There were no active fires on the island at that time. So I thought that was an overreach at that time. I submitted an application for judicial review to the courts, standing on my charter rights. And when I went in for the hearing, first of all, the Crown was arguing it should be dismissed on mootness because the ban had been lifted by the time it got to court. And I was like, no, they're going to do it again. I was right. They also tried to have it dismissed on standing. Now, ultimately, the judge did dismiss it on standing, and he basically said that I could not stand on my rights alone. There had to be money involved. So had I had a business in the woods or had I gotten fined, then I would have had standing in the courts. So when they came in with the blanket ban again this time, I knew what I had to do. I knew that I had to go and take the fine just to get a legal determination as to whether or not it's legal to hike in Canada.
Which is crazy to me because you'd think, well, you were essentially verboten from going. You're told you can't go into the woods, and trying to be an upstanding citizen. Well, I'm not going to break the rule, but I'll challenge the rule and not break it at the time. The only recourse you had was to break it at the time, and then you were told, forget it. There's no recourse. You can't challenge it. Am I right in that?
Yeah. They basically said that there was no way I could get it in there, without exposing myself to this risk of what is a $28,872.50 fine, and $72.50 fine at the end of the day. Because they advertised this $25,000, and then you add taxes, court fees, and a victim charge on top of that.
Who's the victim?
Well, I am clearly. So. I guess the court's going to be holding some money for me so they can compensate me at a later date for everything that they put me through here. I still tried to go about it about as cordially as I could. I think a lot of people have seen the video by now. So first of all, when they first brought the ban in, they had a bunch of trails in the park where I walk my dog every morning taped off. Now, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like these trails are packed gravel, like they're not going to catch fire. And my sneakers are not a fire hazard. That's a very important point. So I started out when I saw the tape when I got to the park, I was actually pissed, and I was just like, I can't believe that they're doing this again. And now this time I'm going to have to take a fine. So I just kind of fired up my camera by the tape there and just started going, okay, I just want to show everybody, this area is taped off. Yeah, this is the one.
That's it. I'm not playing the volume, but yeah, you're saying like this is the woods, and then you're going to other areas that look like wooded areas nonetheless, and you're like, these are not the woods.
This is not the woods.
This is really this arbitrary thing that we're seeing throughout Canada, and in my estimate, I think it's the arbitrary nature that is the goal here. The whole thing is to get people to second guess themselves, and they can't really make a logical basis on why they're not allowed to do this, why they're not allowed to do that. And it just becomes this demoralization throughout society. I mean, then they further went and said that like Native groups are allowed to go in the woods and have their big events that they have planned, as if like Native people don't catch fire with their sneakers as they walk in the woods. Moccasins. I guess they're not. And this is a thing that I brought up yesterday with Marty, because Marty's a wilderness guy. He's a mountaineer. He's a hiker, avid hiker. He goes on. He'll miss the show certain weeks because he's out for 10 days with a backpack, and that's it, right?
Wow.
And this is a thing that a lot of people miss about going out in the woods. Get out there. Go try this. Go out there without a lighter, without a way of starting a fire, and get yourself in a situation where you need a fire. You're going to have a hell of a time trying to get one going. Believe me.
Yeah. I mean, I could not start a fire accidentally. I had absolutely no way of, I had nothing on my person. I don't smoke. I had nothing on my person that was a source of ignition. Now, that kind of thing I could see. And this is part of the case that we're making here is, under the charter, the measures need to be proportional. They need to be minimally interfering or minimally impairing with my liberties. And there was absolutely no consideration whatsoever for lesser measures that would have been less impairing to my liberties. Now, if you wanted to go all the way to banning like all sources of ignition, all smoking, I would be like, okay. And I have heard that they have ATV bans in Alberta sometimes. So like, apparently that's a thing. And I can see that too. But these are reasonable, like logically connected to the goal. That's another requirement under the charter too, right? Is that the measures need to be logically connected to the goal. The goal is preventing wildfires. Banning my sneakers from the woods is not going to do anything to mitigate the risk of fire hazard. So I think we have like a really solid case. Granted, we've been getting some bad precedent set in the last several years, but that's part of the reason that I put the videos online, was to raise public awareness about this. And hopefully we can even get some international attention, which we appear to be, because I was just on InfoWars last night. I'm going to be on Dr. Drew next week. Next stop, Joe Rogan. I don't know, fingers crossed. But I think if we have enough kind of public awareness, the outrage that I'm seeing coming has been really good. Mainstream media is going to mainstream media. Globalist news is probably the worst offender, but for the most part, they've actually been pretty good. I mean, not as egregious of offenders as they usually are. And it's mostly like framing and not so much the smears, but we're in the mainstream news. There's this outcry now over this that I'm pretty surprised at. Quite frankly, I wasn't expecting this kind of response at all. And now the Americans are starting to take note at a time when you have congressmen and senators who are complaining about smoke entering the United States from Canadian wildfires because they've been so utterly mismanaged. And I think that is the word, really. That's kind of the word of the day, is mismanagement. Because you were talking about, the arbitrarity of it all. And I think it was Christopher Hitchens who said that the arbitrarity and caprice are central to the essence of totalitarianism. And
that's correct. Yeah.
As we can see, that is what we're living under. But I'm looking at it. I know what you're saying. Like, you might as well be an evil mastermind who's, trying to scramble our brains with these kind of irrational measures that, here we are trying to make sense of this stuff, and there is no sense to make. But there I'm always a really strong proponent of Hanlon's razor. I have been, for years, and especially during the last several years. Never attribute malice where ineptitude will suffice to explain human behavior. We've actually seen, after Tim Houston came out and said, "Oh yeah, you got to keep your sneakers out of the woods because they're going to cause fires." Then Susan Holt in New Brunswick came out and said, "Okay, obviously we're not telling you to stay out of the woods because walking causes fires. We're telling you to stay out of the woods because we're too busy battling fires to come and rescue you when you break your leg." And I think my comment, like they both said that on the same day, and I think my comment was something like the paternalism of the guilty mind, central to the essence of totalitarianism, is on full display in Atlanta, Canada. And now Houston has he came out and he said, what was it today? I was posting one of his videos today because he was basically saying that the reason that I can't go into the woods is because I might wander into a wildfire and end up like surrounded by flames. And I just posted like a map, okay? And I was like, I would like to thank our dear leader, Tim Houston, for showing me the error of my ways. Had I not been banned from the woods, then I could have gotten lost in the park by my house and walked my dog for 8 days and accidentally ended up in the middle of the nearest wildfire. It's just absurd. Like the nearest wildfire is in Truro. I'm not going to get lost in the park by my house. So the whole thing, I think, it really betrays just how inept these people really are. Like, listen to what they're saying. I think if they were, competent and the masterminds that are, demoralizing us in a truly kind of, in a kind of psychological operation sort of fashion, then we would expect to see, a much more tight and well-oiled machine than we have so far. These people are making fools of themselves.
Well, the question, it becomes a case of not how can you justify this, because that's what they're doing. It's a shifting goalposts, just like we saw during COVID. It was this is to save your granny, and you need to get a vaccine. But if you get a vaccine, then we're all good. But if wait a second, hold on. Then if you got the vaccines, then even the unvaccinated would be good under that same logic. But no, it was a shifting goalpost. We've got that now. But the question isn't how are you justifying this? The question should be, do you have the right to limit people's liberties? Like, do you have a clear case for this? And the answer is clearly no. And that's why all this, like, they're being semantic with their answers and saying how, you could get lost in the woods. But it's not the role of the government to stop you from getting lost in the woods.
No, and they're always framing it as a safety issue. See, this is what the left does. This is what totalitarians do, is they always reframe the issue. So I have raised a rights issue, and I just saw that rotten Rachel Gilmore and her never-ending quest to shrink all the boners in Canada doing a video about me, and she was doing the same thing. She was reframing it as a safety issue and saying you live in a society and you need to keep us all safe. And I'm like, no, it's a rights issue. You don't have a right to safety. As far as I'm aware, like there's nothing in the charter that says that you have a right to safety. It says you have the right to secure your person. That is not the same thing as the right to safety. There's no such thing as life without risk. Risk cannot be avoided. It is something to be mitigated and managed. It's my risk. It's my personal risk in a free society. The government doesn't get to say, well, we didn't budget for enough resources to keep you alive, so now we get to control you, which seems to be Susan Holt's position. The Constitution, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, reigns supreme, and the whole purpose of it is to rein in these would-be dictators. It doesn't seem to have stopped any of them in the last several years, but that's not going to stop me from trying.
Well, and it comes down to, what's happening on a federal level? Because if this is if it's a constitutional issue or a charter issue, the charter is federal jurisdiction. So under our confederation, the federal government should be stepping in when a province goes outside of the parameters of what they're allowed to based on the charter. Where's the federal response on this one?
I don't know. Do they intervene like that usually to stop provinces from running roughshod over the rights of our citizens?
Well, I mean, say a province decided they were going to confiscate people's property for some arbitrary reason. The federal government, the purpose of the federal government is to intervene and say, wait. No, we have this charter, and that's a federal thing, and you can't violate this, even though you may have jurisdiction over things like taxation or healthcare, providing healthcare. But the charter is a federal issue, so they should be able to step in and say, no, you can't do this, and at least file a lawsuit on behalf of the people.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if they would do that. I know that you see a lot of the kind of lawsuit stuff happening in the United States, but I did see what is it? The CCF, the Senator or the Center for Constitutional Freedoms. They're filing a lawsuit on behalf of the people, and I have retained a lawyer with Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. Looks like it's going to be Chris Fleury again, because I had him for my convoy charges as well. I'm really happy to be working with those guys, by the way. And I might as well, since I'm plugging them, tell everybody that go look at my pinned tweet. I'm not taking any donations at all. I don't want to touch any money throughout this whole affair. I'm working with the JCCF. You can donate to the JCCF if you'd like to help me win back our freedoms. But I want to keep this nice and squeaky clean, because, you know, everybody's calling me a grifter, right?
Yeah. Well, anytime you fighting for people's freedoms, you'll get the accusation. But yeah, you pointed it out here that you're not doing any gives and goes, no, none of that stuff, no GoFundMe's. This is all, if you want to help your case, donate directly to the JCCF, and
Exactly.
that seems fair. So if there's any other people that might put up a give, send, go or something, that's probably a scam. Probably stay away from that. Don't give your money to that one.
They
Make sure you give
started
your
right
money.
away.
Is that right?
Right away. Yeah.
What people were on your behalf raising money?
Yeah. I saw like there were like these pump and dump Bitcoin fundraisers and all of this stuff, and I was just like, dear Lord, didn't take you guys long.
Wow,
You know, and
some
people I'd never
have
heard of.
no moral compass, eh?
Yeah.
No moral compass whatsoever. Just make a buck any which way. Yeah, no, so that's definitely a thing. I want to make sure everybody gets that info. If you want to donate to this case, make sure you're donating directly to the JCCF. You go right to their website. I'm not giving you the link. You can go get it. It's because that's another thing I don't do, is I don't raise money on behalf of other people. I refuse to, because it's just an ugly thing. You know, it just becomes one of those.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I kind of cringe a little bit when it comes to that stuff. You know, even when I know we're doing it on the up and up, and we got like, we need money to conduct operations and this kind of thing. I don't really like to touch any of it. Like, you know, my not-for-profit is Veterans for Freedom, and I've been working with them since the convoy. Been kind of, you know, that's been taking a back seat to a lot of my legal battles. This is 3 matters that I have before the courts right now. And I have had 1 or 2 others. So I've been kind of focusing on that stuff, and not a whole lot on the activism as much. I'd like to get back to doing maybe some podcasting or something at some point, but ultimately, you know, priorities, and I'm a mission-oriented guy. So, you know, mission success always gets primacy, as we say. But even when I was fundraising with like Veterans for Freedom, like I would do the podcast, and at the end I would say, go and donate and go buy some merch. And then I would just be like, oh, I feel a little dirty.
Fair enough. I mean, I have a bit of merch just because people keep asking for it, but I also make coffee. I like, it's one of those things. If you want, I'd like people to get something out of it, in fact, instead of just I don't know, a bumper sticker, but people want that stuff too. Nonetheless, let's get a little bit more feel about you. Who's Jeff Evely, and why did you get involved in activism in the first place?
Well, you know, first of all, people have been asking me this question everywhere. And what I always say is, I'm nobody. Like, it doesn't matter who I am. The truth will stand or fall on its own, and the law will stand or fall on its own. I'm just the messenger, so don't shoot the messenger. But since people do want to know a little bit about me, I grew up here, in Cape Breton Island, Sydney, Nova Scotia, home of my heart, as we like to say. I joined the Canadian Armed Forces in 2001. I did a 20-year career, tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. I spent 4 years in the United States working with NORAD. I did a few other things. Had a pretty good career. Finished out at the second highest rank in the NCO Corps. Couldn't really complain in terms of progression, that kind of thing. But I was medically released in September of 2021. And I can remember kind of leading up to my release, a lot of the thinking that I was doing at the time, I was really looking hard at Florida, because I had spent my 4 years down in the U.S. at Tyndall Air Force Base in Panama City, Florida. Sorry, Panama City. I was thinking, like, man, I think I kind of had enough. I was just like, I've had enough of the military. I've kind of had enough of this country. I think I just want to get out of here, maybe go chase after my old girlfriend down in Florida, and it'll be a good time. Be a great place for, a guy like me to retire. But I saw the way that things were going in the lead up to the 2021 election, and I was like, we're in a lot of trouble. So I can't leave. I've been singing "We Stand on Guard for Thee" my entire life, and I actually swore an oath to defend Canadians from all threats, foreign and domestic. And we were under threat. It was very clear to me. So, I decided to take my retirement posting back here to Cape Breton Island to dig my boots into the land that I love and make my final stand. And when I got here, I took possession of my retirement home on 1 November 2021. That was the same day that vaccine passports came into effect. Thank you, Tim Houston. After getting elected on a promise to never do that, he imposed the vaccine.
He actually promised not to do that.
He said, we're never going to do vaccine passports or vaccine mandates, and then he did both. Wow. I was like cut out of my society. I couldn't do any of the things that I really needed to do, like go to the gym, go to the Legion. I actually bought my house crawling distance away from the local Legion, thinking I was going to be best retired veteran you'd ever seen, and turn that institution around. And then, here I was home alone, drinking alone with my firearms there while I was locked out of society. And I said, this is wrong. I thought to myself, I should be down at the Legion getting my social support. And so I went down and made an attempt to get served, and they refused. And kind of like really, really dismissive. Just the whole thing was so gross, and I just let them have it. Like, I was in a bad way. I had some booze at the beginning and stuff like that, so it could have gotten really ugly. But anyway, I walked out of there on my own steam. Those guys, a bunch of cowards anyway. They weren't even vets. I was doing that. I was like, where'd you serve? But none of them did. Wow. Yeah, they're just barflies, right? I gave them a real hard piece of my mind, but in the end, I ended up kind of walking out. And then the next day, I ordered one of their hats. You're probably familiar with it. It was the red hat that I wore to the convoy. It says "Lest we forget," and I crossed out the "lest" with a black permanent markers, because that's how I feel. Like, we forget. We forget that so many Canadians paid the ultimate sacrifice for these freedoms that our current political and institutional leadership are wiping their asses with. It's, I think, an egregious affront to veteran dignity and to human dignity more broadly. So I put on my hat, and I just, put some pins in from different things I did in my service, like Afghanistan, Iraq, NORAD, Nijmegen. That's another, that's 4 days of rucksack marching that I did in the Netherlands in 2016. Pretty big event, 1 million people there. But I put a bunch of pins in, and I went out just defying the mask mandates, shopping around maskless and stuff like that. And I ended up getting arrested a couple of times. I was charged with obstructing for the first one, and I got the $2,600 fine under the Health Protection Act for the second one. I was refused service at multiple other locations, but not arrested. So I submitted human rights complaints for every time I was refused service. So I was just doing that. I kind of felt all alone, and I didn't really know much about any freedom movement, because I had been off Facebook and social media since January 6th, because it was pretty clear to me that they were hunting down all the right wingers. And I just wanted to kind of, take cover until I could, finish out my career. And so then when I heard the trucker convoy was firing up in January 2022, I was like, I know where I got to be. So I booked her out to Ottawa there. I met all the other veterans at the War Monument. That was when Jim Watson, used the body of the unknown soldier as a prop to smear his political opponents by fencing off the monument and telling the national news that people were peeing on it or something. Obviously, a bunch of nonsense. So the veterans took down the fence, and the police were like, "How are we supposed to keep patriots from peeing on the monument now?" So we said, we would do a sentry duty, and we put somebody on there to stand on guard for the 24/7. I was the guy who ran the shift schedule. And I was there holding the line on February 18th when they came in to kick the shit out of us. And they did that to Chris Deering, one of my veteran bros there right in front of us, even after he spent about an hour, giving these impassioned speeches about his experience in Afghanistan, getting blown up in his light armored vehicle and, spending years in recovery. Very harrowing stuff. And they just stomped the hell out of them right in front of me. I think they were trying to start a riot, quite frankly. I got arrested on the 19th. The next day, I was on my way in for my shift schedule. I had the 4 a.m. shift because I was, the scheduler. So I ended up with the crappy one. And the police told me that I couldn't go to the monument. I was wearing my war medals on my way to the war monument. And they were telling me I couldn't go. And I just said, yes, I can. And I kept walking. And then they said, stop. And I said, no. And I ran. The thing is that when I went to basic training, they taught me that I had a duty to defy illegal orders. The first question that always comes out is, how am I going to know the order's illegal? Well, you have to use your own judgment. And, am I going to be protected when they come after me for defying that order? No, you're going to go in front of a judge. The judge is going to rule on the legality of that order. And if you turn out to be wrong, then you're going to be charged under the National Defense Act. And why do we impose such a burden on our young people? Well, it's because that is the only thing that separates us from Nazis. I always try to adhere to those principles and be a principled professional in my career and in my life. When they told me to stop and when they told me I couldn't go up there, I was like, you can't tell me to do that. I have a right to protest and I have a right to move freely. So I just defied those orders, intending to get arrested and get it in front of a judge. It hasn't been going our way with a lot of these convoy trials. Mine didn't. But anyway, when I was getting released, I had to sign an undertaking, couldn't go back to the red zone, the downtown core. But then Neil Sheard called Rolling Thunder in April we were doing a wreath laying ceremony to give dignity back to the monument and to the veterans who were beaten at the convoy and drug off the monument. And I was just like, well, I'm not going to miss that. So I called my lawyer ahead of time and I was like, you should expect a call. I'm going to Ottawa. So, and I was Sergeant Major on parade and I gave a speech. And then the cops came out and rearrested me. They sent 8 cops and 3 squad cars to pick me up all by myself in the market. That time I had to put down $5,000 bail, and they expanded the territory to which I could not return to the greater Ottawa area. So when I was marching with James Topp on his way to the monument, I had to stop my march short at the sign for Arnprior, because that's the civic boundary for the greater Ottawa area. It's like 50 kilometers away from the War Monument, making me potentially the only veteran in Canadian history who's been barred from the National War Monument for 2.5 years. I marched with him again on the way back when he was coming through Cape Breton Island. He didn't take a step on this island without me. And then I was a co-organizer nationally for the 1 Million March for Children. I organized the local march, the second annual one here locally. And around that time, like moving into, 2024, 2025, I was kind of pulling back from the Veterans for Freedom stuff a little bit, and a lot of the activism stuff, because my court cases were starting to be heard. So I had a lot of work to do. I was, self-representing for the charges that I'd received here in my hometown. And when I made the mistake of I wrote my charter defense, and it's a big binder like this, and I submitted it to the courts ahead of my court date. But I'm looking back on it now, realizing that was the wrong thing to do. I'm just kind of used to the military grievance process. But I don't have to give them anything in my defense. Like, I can just show up on the day and they could have no idea what I'm about to say, because I'm the defendant. But and I think that probably would have been the better approach. It would have gotten to court, because, well, it obviously I'm spoiling it here, but the first one, the obstructing charge, I showed up and the judge was like, well, none of the witnesses showed up, so case dismissed. Bang the gavel, you're free to go. So the cops, the complainant, the witnesses, the Crown, nobody showed up for my trial on the obstructing charge. And then on the
at that point, is it just dismissed? Is that it?
That's it. Done.
So you just went through a bunch of crap for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
For nothing.
For nothing. Just bang. Get out of here.
Wow.
And and here I am. Like, I had a charter defense. I was like, these people violated my rights. What do you do about it? The second one, the $2,600 fine, the Crown ended up, I did the same thing. I submitted the charter defense, and the Crown withdrew the charges 2 days out from my court date. Let me see. So I did all that. I still had my charges from the Ottawa convoy. They got pushed way back because my first lawyer, she had a trial that ran long. It was like a murder trial, but it ran long. So she asked if she could ask to reschedule. I thought it was going to be like a month. It ended up being like a year. So
man.
I know I didn't end up back for my convoy trial until August of 2024. And they found me guilty of mischief and obstruct. The one for Rolling Thunder was a breach of my conditions. I pled guilty to that because I was just like, yeah, I knew what I was doing. But we applied. We tried to appeal the guilty finding. The appeals court declined to hear it, and so now it looks like we're going to have to go to the Supreme Court. So hopefully have it heard. And now I'm doing this thing. In the woods. So.
Did you get a sentencing for the mischief?
Yeah, it was a year's probation, 50 hours community service, and I can't protest in Ottawa.
I mean, well, first off, like that seems annoying, and that sounds like another constitutional challenge. You're not allowed to go to Ottawa and protest because of a mischief charge. Like, I think that should be thrown out. But then
on top of that, gathering of more than 10 people. That's what it says.
That's crazy. And then we're looking at like what Chris and Tamara are going through, right? Chris Barber, Tamara Leach.
Yeah.
They're looking at 8 and 7 years respectively. Yeah. And then Chris's truck is to be confiscated and destroyed as a symbolic measure of destroying like what it was, the convoy was. This is like, we're not talking about statesmen. We're talking about children in the positions of office. I mean, even Justin Trudeau, what did he say? He said, we're going to apply what we learned from COVID to all these other things. I've got the clip here. It's just, it's astronomical that he said this.
What we learned from this COVID crisis, we will be applying to the climate crisis, to the housing crisis, to reconciliation, to making sure that everyone has good jobs and careers that carry them through and create opportunities for their kids.
This is the nanny state, man. Like, this is what we've been warned about from Frederick Hayek, all these other, brilliant minds throughout the 20th century and even beforehand. We've got these, I'm going to take care of you no matter if I have to kill you doing it, type tyrants. And you said it, tyrants. There's really no better word for it.
No, absolutely not. And it is that kind of paternalism that we see everywhere. Like, this is, you don't like this now, but it's for your own good. You know, I'm abusing you out of love. You know, these kinds of narratives with Susan Holt and Tim Houston out here in Atlantic right now. And you know, the thing is, like, I saw that one from Newfoundland. I thought that was the most chilling press conference when they were announcing that they're going to up the fines for having a fire from $75,000 to $50,000. And there was, I think it was the Minister of Health, and she's just sitting there kind of calmly, well, I hope everyone will consider the impacts to their families if they end up with a $50,000 fine or have to go to jail for 6 months, you know, and you'll consider that for your family because this is very serious. Blah, blah. She's talking to us like we're freaking children. I'm like,
who says that? Like that sounds like an Italian guy coming to your shop and saying, hey, you know, lovely shop you got here. It'd be a real shame if it caught fire one day. You know, we're taking donations for looking after the neighborhood. What do you think? Like, that's what I hear when I hear that.
I know. Well, and that's what I think. I think it's kind of it's emblematic of the true nature of government. It really is just a socially licensed extortion and protection racket. And I'm not even sure they have the social license anymore, given all the election interference. But yeah, that's what it is. It is a racket. It's, you know, these racketeers, they come up to you like, hey, you got a nice life over here. It'd be a shame if something would have happened to it, huh? So you pay me, we'll protect your money, and it's anybody's guess as to whether, you know, I'm actually
and you better get in line because we'll do something if you don't, right? And
yeah,
and that's awful. I mean, so I struggle with this one because I'm a dual citizen. I'm, you know, grew up. My dad's American, my mom's Scottish. We emigrated here when she was a kid, and I've always lived in border towns, so I have like a very strong American influence. But then, you know, I've always lived in Canada, so or most of my life lived in Canada. And what is it like? There's this whole cultural aspect to Canada where it's just whatever, just take it sort of aspect, or, you know, this is our culture. We do things this way. What was it? There was an article just recently. Yeah, here it is. It's the Globe and Mail wrote an article. Ryan Garrettson posting this one up here saying the people opposing Nova Scotia's ban on accessing the woods don't understand our culture. Is this our culture to just take it? Because I like so from my American side of my family, it's always been like, no, you're not gonna stand in my way. I have rights. Screw off, essentially. And if you don't like it, well, come get it. Come get me. Yeah. That's always been the aspect. But I see it here in Canada. Man, so many people have the attitude like, why don't you just go along to get along? Why you got to make a fuss about it? Why is this even an issue for you? Why don't you just stay out of the woods? You weren't going to go camping anyway. What the heck, man? What?
Yeah, I know. Well, and it's like, you know, what about the principle? What about the law? First of all, is it legal for them to do this? Do we live under rule of law or don't we? I mean, I had to ask a radio host in Toronto there earlier this week that the guy brought me on there like, oh, well, you know, the same kind of thing. And he says,
you wanted to lambast you and tell you that you're in the wrong.
Yeah. And he was trying to insinuate that, you know, I was just putting on a show to advance my political career. And here I am, you know, standing on my veteran status to you know, to support my political position. I was like, what political position exactly? We either live under rule or we don't. Yeah, we live under rule of law or we don't. This is a matter of principle, not politics. I'm not out here like plugging myself as a PPC candidate or anything like that. And I haven't leaned into the PPC stuff at all. And, you know, ultimately PPC is just another vassal for my mission success to save the country. Like, it's pretty tough to be loyal to a country or to even to a, like a diehard, you got diehard liberals out there, but the liberals have been around forever. I don't know you really have like super diehard PPCers or anything. So it's a little bit ridiculous to be making this kind of ideological argument, I think.
It's an election cycle thing too. We're not in an election cycle, so why would anybody care?
I know, we just came out of it. It's a great question. But what you were saying there about why Canadian, like what is the difference with Canadians and Americans? I mean, there is a very different heritage there, where, you know, America was born out of the Revolution. So they do have that kind of legacy of the Revolution, a lot more, you know, don't tread on me. And they are the only thing standing in the way of global tyranny at this point. I think they realize that. So they take a lot of pride in it. And, you know, just having been born out of the Revolution, you can see that they sort of built up their system much differently than we did, especially with things like the First Amendment and Second Amendment. And you know, the Second Amendment is the legal framework by which free men, or by which the American or the United States is set up to be the last ditch on earth from which free men may one day stand against global tyranny. And I think they want it that way. You know, I think that their legacy and their culture is much different from ours in that regard. We have a lot more in common than most people, I think, would like to admit. Like, no two countries in the history of the world, I don't think, have ever had so much in common or been such close allies as Canada and the United States. But, you know, our legacy is not one of revolution. You know, we still live under the crown, and we basically got permission to be free from the Queen at some point.
with strings attached, of course.
Naturally. So I suppose there's not that kind of cultural appreciation for the idea that rights need to be asserted, you know, and that you know, the only thing necessary for evil to succeed in the world is for good men to do nothing. You know, I think we have a much more sleepy, kind of sheepish view of the world, where we tend to think that if we just leave everybody else alone, that they'll leave us alone. And that is not the case at all. Like, we are under constant attack. You know, totalitarians, you know, they will enslave you kind of 1 inch at a time. And what you see with a lot of Canadians is that reframing again, this kind of totalitarian mindset, where they're always reframing it like, oh, you can do this and you can do that, and you're just, you know, you're just complaining, but, you know, you should be keeping people safe. It's about safety. It's not about rights. It's about safety, and you need to do stuff for us. And it's like, no, you do you, and I'll do me. And Americans are much, I think, much more willing to say that kind of thing. Canada's, you know, further left than the United States. So more of the kind of collectivist socialist mindset, more so now, I think, than ever. Really, like, we're a liberal democracy, so we're set up a little bit more right wing legally than our culture would have us believe. But ultimately, I think culturally we're still more collectivist, a little bit more authoritarian. We're kind of used to having things top down. Just it's built, like, you know, with the Westminster system, that's you know, basically designed to be part of a kingdom. So there's a lot of that. But you know, I don't know, man. I think that part of the reason why we seem to be, like, just in the last several years, gone so god awfully totalitarian is because, like I said, like, totalitarians, you know, it's a very sinister thing that they do. They exploit your desire to be a good person in order to enslave you. So, you know, you put on your mask, or you're killing grandma, you stay out of the woods, or you're burning people's houses, right? So they're always framing it as in, if you're a bad person, if you don't, you know, let me boss you around. And it's a very kind of sinister thing that they do. And Canadians, like, we really pride ourselves in being some of the nicest people in the world, and having this international reputation for saying sorry too much. And so I think that kind of makes us vulnerable to this, like, basically ideological subversion, where, you know, totalitarians are coming at us all the time. Like, you're a nice person, aren't you? You're a good person. Well, if you're a good, nice person, then you're going to let me boss you around. And people go along with it, I'm afraid. And I just think it's a really, you know, kind of sick, sinister, twisted thing that they do, the way that they exploit our desire to be good people, you know, in order to crush us and bring us under the boot.
I keep hoping that one day Canadians will snap out of it. And I'm kind of like, I hate to say it, but the worse it gets, the more Canadians just kind of tend to go with it, like more and more. Like I thought there would be a line at some point, that there would be some sort of line in the sand, but like you said, it's just like inch by inch they're creeping it further, and it's like we're all the frogs in the boiling water. We're not realizing that it's boiling. Like this, it's crazy. And there's a lot of people that are, on the fence about it. What do I do? I can't, some people are leaving the country entirely, saying, forget it. I can't live here. I can't. And the more people leave, the worse off it gets, because then there's less people fighting for it. What's the end result? Where do you think it goes?
Well, I do think that part of the agenda here is to drive us out, to make life here basically so unbearable that all the people who built this country and were born here leave. And then they'll just bring in cheap migrant labor and, have an economic zone for China to pillage and launch hybrid warfare attacks into the United States. So that is part of the plan, I think, is to squeeze us out. And that's why I said, like, I came back and I said, I'm going to dig my boots into this land, make my final stand here. And I'm not, hard line. Like if it really came down to it and I had to beat a retreat and get down to the United States and start advocating for a full scale invasion to extirpate the Chinese from Canada or something like that, then I guess that's what I would end up doing. But, we need people to stay and fight. And we've been singing "We Stand on Guard for Thee" our entire lives. I think it was well appreciated when I was younger that these rights and these freedoms, I mean, these are the legacy of our fallen soldiers. And we're a nation who says, lest we forget, not because we got to remind ourselves to get out there and get another funeral going for these guys once a year, but lest we forget what they stood for, and lest we forget that we all have a sacred civic duty to safeguard that inheritance for future generations. That's why we sing, we stand on guard for thee. Thee is the fallen. We'll stand on guard to make sure that their sacrifice is not wasted. So I feel particularly obligated, in light of that, and in light of, my service, that I should probably stick around. And the fact that my generation basically got driven off into the meat grinder too. So I have, I think, a more fulsome appreciation for what it really takes to win these freedoms, especially once they're lost. I saw an awful lot of young Canadians, loaded into the back of a military aircraft in a flag draped coffin while I was in Afghanistan. I'm not a combat veteran personally. I was an electronics specialist, but it was a very tense time while I was there. 2009, 2010, we lost a lot of people. So. I went to all the ramp ceremonies, and I worked with the unmanned aerial vehicle detachment. So we would fly Overwatch for some of the units. Sometimes it was special forces, sometimes it was infantry, other times we were looking for IEDs, other times we were doing signals intelligence and this kind of thing. But it was more than one occasion I would have watched a Canadian soldier die at night and then gone to his ramp ceremony the next day. Again, I think that having had that experience, it gives me a much more fulsome appreciation for the fact that, we've lost enough ground already. Like if we don't keep this ground, it could be lost forever. Like there's just been too many who've already paid the ultimate sacrifice to give us these rights, to leave these rights and these freedoms for us. We can't. I just wouldn't be able to live with myself, I think, if I just took the easy way out.
Yeah, there's so many Canadians now, they're looking at the 51st state thing as an easy out. Like, why can't we just have America come and take us over, and then we'll be good?
I'm pretty patriotic for the United States as well. I lived there for 4 years of my service. I think they're some of the greatest people who have ever lived. Like, no people in the history of the world have ever shed more of their own blood in lands that they didn't care about, for kids that they never met. And like I said, the only thing standing in the way of global tyranny Many people, I think, are buying into a lot of the propaganda of our adversaries that are always saying like it's America that's the warmonger. It's not. It's everybody else. They do everything they can to kind of suppress these. Stop these problems before they start. I know that here and there it does get greasy. It gets pretty messy, like in any situation when you're dealing with a lot of people, you know, and they're going to do stupid things and things like that. I get that. So some of it is bad, but that's, I mean, compared to, what was it? Christopher Hitchens has another great quote here where he said, the conditions at Abu Ghraib prison improved dramatically under American occupation. So you're always better off with the Americans, right?
It's a pretty low bar, but that's the thing.
Well, I mean, look at what they were doing, the Iraqis, the Ba'athist regime to their own people in Abu Ghraib prison before the Americans got there. Yeah. I mean, what the Americans did in Abu Ghraib prison was child's play compared to that. So, and you know, you deal with humans. Humans are messy. People are messy, and they get into some really weird headspaces, especially in a war zone. So those things are going to happen. But geez, I mean, nobody does it better, really, than the Americans do, or maybe the Israelis. But you know, these are some of the most ethical militaries in the world, and they get, you know, the world's totalitarians hate them. So they smear and propagandize against them. And I think a lot of Canadians are buying into that anti-American propaganda. You can see with the Elbows Up campaign that a lot of Canadians have bought into that. And it just breaks my heart because I'm like, no, they're wonderful people. They're great people. You know, I was treated really well while I was in the United States, probably better than I was treated in Canada. I would say objectively better than I was in Canada as a Canadian veteran. And you know, if Alberta wants to be the 51st state, like I wouldn't begrudge them that at all. I understand like they're in an abusive relationship with the Laurentian elites. And there's nothing wrong with cutting toxic people out of your lives. And it might end up being a great thing. Like what I'm patriotic for is the people, you know, I'm interested. I'm patriotic for the Enlightenment. I'm patriotic for, you know, building a brighter future for generations to come. Seeing how far we can take this thing, humanity, civilization, Mars, whatever. I'd love to see how far we can take it. Do what I can to advance that agenda, you know, with the time that I have here. And you know, if becoming the 51st state is better for Albertans, if Albertans will be living better as the 51st state, then I'm all for it. I don't really see that as people start asking me, well, you got the flag on your hat and all this stuff. I've been on the shows and people have asked me this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, you know, this is the flag that I always knew to be the Canadian flag when I was growing up. It's the one that I went to war under, and it's also the one that I was betrayed under. So. And it was never the case that the flag waving really piqued kind of like my patriotism. I think that's more like jingoism. You know, this is a logo. It's a maple leaf. It doesn't really, you know, it doesn't really mean anything. And so,
well, if you look into the history, it was pushed by the Liberal Party. The red is because the Liberal Party. It was a branding thing to make that one political party stand out more than the rest in a particular country.
Really?
It's kind of, yeah, the history's, and it's not that old. It's not that old. I think it's only from the 80s that it came about.
The flag, I thought it was like 1967.
I thought, or maybe no, the national anthem. I'm confusing the two. I think the anthem was in the 80s, and then the flag was in the 60s. But yeah, it was.
What?
Yeah,
anthem only in the 80s. Wow.
I'm going to Google it. When the Canadian flag.
Not as old as I look, I guess.
So. Yeah, there you go. The flag of Canada. It'll tell you the date. Oh, 1965. And then the anthem. I think the anthem was only in the 80s.
Wow. Well, and the flag, the maple leaf flag, like there was a lot of this, let's move away from the crown and kind of be our own thing. And now we're going back, making deals with the UK instead of the United States. It's like, are we North America? Are we Europe? Like, you know, make up your minds. But I was I've kind of thought about this in the past too. It's
I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong. So it became the de facto anthem in 1939.
Oh, okay.
Way out, way out. But
Yeah.
so the flag isn't that old. The flag's since the 60s.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, like, so the anthem came in 39, and the red ensign, for example, the red ensign, our previous flag. You know, we went to World War I, World War II, and Korea under that flag, and then like 12 years after coming back from Korea, they switched the flag out and got this. I was like, you know, that's the flag of my fallen forefathers, for crying out loud. The red ensign, you know, that must have felt like kind of a betrayal for those guys. I wonder if it did. So ultimately, I guess, you know, I can rant about the flag for a little bit longer, I guess, but really it's just a flag. It doesn't really carry much weight with me. It's really about the people and whether the people are doing well.
Right. I always thought that the Star Spangled Banner had like way more history to it. I mean, like, obviously it has to do with the colonies. At first it was 13, and then it you know, kept building up because of the state, the union. And there's a lot to it. There's like the whole in the anthem talking about the flag still being there after a battle and all of that stuff.
That's very dramatic.
It's super dramatic, and there's a lot to be proud of there.
Yes. And it's very hard to sing.
Why is it hard to sing?
Oh, there's a lot of high notes in there with the Star Spangled Banner. It's not like "O Canada." Anybody can sing "O Canada," but you get somebody to sing the American anthem. Well, that's hard to do.
It's easy to hide your off-key notes in the crowd, though. That's how that's my strategy there. Yeah. just do it with everybody else, and then you'll never get called out.
I wanted to do that. I can remember that was I ended up getting repatriated from the U.S. there on pretty short notice, but I was friends with one of the Americans. She would sing the national anthem. She got asked to sing the national anthem all the time at like all these different events. And anyway, she was a friend of mine, and I was like, listen, would you coach me to sing the American anthem? Like maybe someday that'd be cool if you get a Canadian out there to sing the American anthem. I like to, like, you know, play guitar and sing and, you know, do all kinds of musical things too. So we had jammed a couple of times and stuff like that. So she was like, yeah, we should do that. That'd be great. And then boom, I ended up getting repatriated. But I mean, I think that would have been a really patriotic thing to do, right? Like as a Canadian uniformed military member, maybe sing the American national anthem for my host country while I was posted down there. You know, Clyde, it just kind of breaks my heart to see the way that everybody's going on about the Americans right now, because they've been nothing but wonderful to us.
Absolutely. And I've been trying to springboard this by saying like, thank you, America, making thank you, America tweets. Maybe people will get it the wrong way because I'm American as well, but I think there should be way more appreciation for the fact that Canada has particular industries at all. In the first place, a lot of it's carryover because the American economy had done so well, and the American economy did so well only because of this experiment with liberty, this idea that people can go about and do the things as they chose without some tyrannical oversight committee on every aspect of their lives. Just go in your garage and you have this idea for tinkering with a new concept and you turn it into a business. It becomes a whole new industry. I mean, how many industries have come out of people's garages in America? And why is it that there are so many Canadians that end up leaving here because they have entrepreneurial spirits? Because the stifling of this nanny state. They go to the United States, they provide these amazing things, and then they get imported back into Canada as great products. And I think there should be way more appreciation. And instead of having an I mean, what is it? Is it like being upset with how successful they are? If that's the case, let's see more mimicry. Let's see Canada going, hey, they're super successful. Why don't we do that, more of that? Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, no kidding. And a lot of our adversarial propaganda, especially like Marxism, I think really appeals to the human proclivity for the deadliest of all sins, which is envy. And that's what you see is kind of like all this envious resentment that with Canadians just seething, like booing their national anthem. They actually booed their wounded veterans at the Invictus Games. I was just like, this is sick. This is disgusting. Like I was just so disgusted with Canadians booing American wounded veterans at the Invictus Games. Like they're seeking rehabilitation through sport, through competition, and Canadians are out there booing them. I was just like, oh my God, I'm so disappointed. Like we got a lot of work to do as a country.
We have a lot of work. We have a lot of work to do, and it's not that America is like every American is the best person in the world. We all know that there's dickheads all over the place, and you're gonna run into them all over. But the fact of the matter is, America has been much more of a beneficial thing for Canada than the other way around. And I think that there should be a little bit more appreciation there. I think Canada needs to grow up a little bit and get to that point. And again, maybe people look at me in the wrong light because I'm American, and I'm saying that. But I really do believe that. I do believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I do think that, it seems like we have some maturation yet to go as a nation, I guess. I think that, Canadians have been stifled too, though. Like we've been stifled and propagandized. And like you were talking about, because we're kind of talking about how they, why Canadians are this way or that way. And I was just talking about how totalitarians will exploit our desire to be good people in order to manipulate us. And that's another kind of way that they frame the issue too, is they always frame the issue in terms of need. Why do you need to go into the woods? Why do you need to own a firearm? And, that they can take everything you have, just kind of using that framing. You don't need this cool hat, and you don't need that cell phone. You don't need any number of things, but that's not the point. The point, you can't let them frame things as need. I'm a free man, and I may live my life as I see fit, and you should be free to pursue your own interests and your own self-actualization. And the freer you are, like you just said, in the United States, where they have much more freedom to pursue their own self-actualization, and they have this kind of cultural rugged individualism as well. Like they wouldn't let most Americans, I guess, maybe some of the really blue districts, but most Americans would not let somebody frame it in terms of need. They would be like, get your own. This is mine. You can get your own.
Even in California, for example, you go to California and you introduce them to the idea of you shouldn't have a firearm to protect yourself. Is a foreign concept for them. It's absolutely a foreign concept, even though they're like huge gun, limiting gun rights and gun control advocates. They would stop at the point of like, well, no, you're not going to take my pistol away from me. I need to have that by my bedside table. That's just normal.
Yes.
But in Canada, that falls into question. And like you said, why do you need a firearm? Well, why do you need me not to have a firearm?
Yeah.
Why do you need me not to have a firearm? Because I think I need it. I think I want it, and I don't think you have a say in that. And that's I guess that's the mentality. Is I don't think you have a say.
Yeah, screw
off.
End
of story.
Yeah, that's it. You don't have a say. I mean, I like to stop people in their tracks like that all the time, because you get these kind of social pressures, and the social cues in Canada are such. I mean, the pistol is probably a really good example, actually, because Americans will look at you like, what do you mean you don't have a pistol? Whereas Canadians will look at you like, what do you mean you have a pistol?
Like, oh, you should have a hunting rifle if you hunt, but a pistol? That's just contraband. Like, what? Personal protection it's paramount.
Absolutely. And even Pierre Poilievre will still frame that issue as if it's all about sports, like our sports shooters and our hunters. And I'm like, no, armed societies are polite societies. And if there's one thing that could have prevented the intractable situation of North Korea, it is an armed citizenry.
Yes. What was during World War II, Japanese general said it would be ridiculous to have a land invasion of the United States because behind every blade of grass is a rifle.
Yes.
That's right. You want that. You want people to think that way, and then you're better off. You're better off.
Yes.
I think there is some places in the US like I think it's like city ordinance where they say every house has to have a pistol in it.
Really?
I can't remember where this was. I think it was in Maine or New Hampshire or somewhere. There's like a city ordinance.
I think I remember seeing a report like years ago about, it was a little documentary or something on this town in Texas where everybody has to carry a pistol.
Has to carry a pistol.
They all have to carry a pistol. Everybody in town has a pistol.
So, well, the funny part about this law, the ordinance of you have to have a pistol in your house, they had no grounds to search your home.
Oh,
so yeah, there's no grounds for that. But because they had an ordinance that said everyone has to have a pistol, it scares the crap out of criminals.
Yeah.
They have no way of making sure you have a pistol in your home. There's no authority that the government has to search your home on the grounds of we think you might not have a pistol. So the whole point of it was just to scare bad guys.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's brilliant. With the state of affairs in Canada right now, depending on how you look at the statistics, we don't quite, StatsCan's not a real statistics organization. So, it's hard to do comparisons with what they have in the United States, but depending on how you count, the rate of violent crime in Canada is like 4 times that of the United States right now. It's insane.
What, per capita?
Yeah, per capita. Yeah, the rate. So it would be per capita. Yeah.
So is that just violent crime, or is that violent crime with firearms? Or
I think it's actually violent and property crime. Is if you count those two together, then it's like 4 times the rate in Canada that it is.
Because I know if you take the United States, and because they always show the gun crime statistics, but if you got rid of
framing.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's framing again, right? Because they'll say gun crime, but what about violent crime, right? If you look at violent crime, stabbings and all of that stuff, if you include that in there, then it's a very different picture. If you compare the United States and the United Kingdom, it's a very different picture, because you won't see a lot of gun crime in the United Kingdom, but you know what you will see is a hell of a lot of knife crime. And that's what happens. They'll just kill you with something else. The criminals will just kill people with other things, right?
Or the advent of, what is it, acid attacks? Like, this is a thing.
I think that was imported from the Middle East, actually.
Yeah, unbelievable, some of the stuff that's happening around. But I know in the US, if you take the violent gun crime and you are to say you singled out all of the gun control cities or gun control areas, and you separate that from the rest of America, like the gun control places are absolutely littered with gun crime, and all the other places are fairly low. Like, even in world standards, it's crazy.
Like New York, LA, Chicago, Detroit, they're all hard left cities, and that's what really happened to Detroit as well. I mean, it used to be, what do they call it? What's Detroit called?
Motor City.
Motor City, yes, it's Motor City.
I grew up right there. I grew up in Windsor, right across the river.
Yeah, and it was booming, very prosperous. But then they started voting for a bunch of lefty stuff, and now it's a freaking hellhole.
Yep, and a lot of the industry shipped on out of there, and that was it. And interestingly enough, in Windsor and southwestern Ontario maintained a lot of the automotive industry stuff. And this is what the whole team elbows up thing is helping to rid Canada of all that. Those companies are starting to look at taking that capital and bringing it to places like Detroit and Toledo and Cleveland, that kind of thing. It's unbelievable. But listen, I could keep you all night long. And that would be, I'd love it, but I'd keep you up all night. I have a couple of comments here in the chat. I'm going to get to some of those and then let you get to bed. You're 4 hours different from here, right?
Yeah, it's 11:40 right now.
We're on opposite coasts. It's crazy.
It's massive country, right?
Huge place. Gem Jam, member for 6 months, says there are a lot of people that risk their lives by getting behind the wheel every day, but we can't ban them from the road. And that's true.
I've been making this analogy too. Like, you cannot ban everybody from driving just because some people will drive drunk. It doesn't work that way, right? And that's what they're saying. They're always saying we have to ban everybody because somebody will smoke, somebody will do something stupid, right?
You know what? They should make driving drunk illegal, Jeff. Maybe they should work on that. Get that into legislation.
And how about instead of taking everybody's guns, we just ban murder?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
that would thwart that. Unbelievable. Yeah, that's the mentality here. Stop everybody from doing the thing. Got North 49 RC for 10 says, man, I so wish I was there with you. Thank you for your service to freedom. Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah, absolutely. Our Dark Star for 699 says, Jeff, you are a hero to this country for days past and present. Thank you for your continued service for Canadians' rights and freedoms. Big applause, man.
My pleasure. Thank you. It's very heartening, guys. Thanks a lot.
You've got lots of fans. You've got lots of fans here in this audience and around Canada. And I know there's a whole bunch of people that want to tear you down, and they want to tear you down because then they don't want a lot of us following your footsteps. And I think that's largely what it is. If you're standing out above the crowd and you're fighting for people's sovereignty, you're fighting for people's rights, people's and not privileges, because this is what they want you to believe, that you're granted a bunch of privileges, but serfs are given privileges. Free people have rights, and that's what people need to realize. And it's important that people like you are coming out above the fray and taking those risks. That's a huge risk. $28,000 for when we saw the video, walking into the woods. Like, give me a break. It's crazy.
It was a 90-second stroll through dense bush under the supervision of 3 conservation officers. So, and it cost me $28,000
under their supervision. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And you know what? The reaction, just so everybody knows, so far I've been finding that the overwhelming majority of people who are reaching out to me, it's positive and supportive. They're trolls. There are trolls. That's to be expected. But they're just the nastiest, most disgusting people. They always drag my service into it and say that they're rescinding my veteran card and stuff like this. And I'm like, thanks for making it so easy to tell who the good guys and bad guys are here, guys. And easy for me to tell that I'm with the good guys. Like, they're just sick people.
No kidding. Well, I'm glad that a lot of media is looking into what you're doing, and they're contacting you. I saw you were on InfoWars with Alex Jones. You're gonna be other things are coming up. We'll see who else invites you. Maybe even getting in front of Joe Rogan. It'd be cool to see something like that in the future, just to get more eyes on this. I know Joe Rogan. The reason why I say Joe Rogan is because he cares about Canada. He's mentioned it so many times on his show, and he said, "I'm never going to Canada until they fix what's going on there." So you're one of the cogs in fixing Canada, in actually trying to do it the right way without having foreign invasion come and help us out.
No, actually trying to use the court. I wouldn't mind hearing like some international voices in the chorus. Like if you had we were on InfoWars. Hopefully somebody else picks it up from that. If we get some commentators from the United States, maybe even a senator, congressman, this kind of thing, saying, "Hey, what is going on up there, Canada?" If people just kind of make those public statements, then I think that will apply some pressure. And I'm not sure if I really explained this before, but part of the reason, there's basically 2 reasons. People ask me why I posted the video of me getting the ticket online, and there's basically 2 reasons. Number one is because I did want to set an example that hopefully others could use to engage in their own civil disobedience. And I am trying to put the civil back in civil disobedience by shaking the guy's hands. Thank you for giving me a $28,000 fine. That was that was in the local paper. I was like, oh, I'm glad they covered it that way. They did a pretty good job, thanks to the Chronicle Herald, whose headline was if pedophiles have a right to loiter by playgrounds do Nova Scotians have a right to walk in the woods? Because my legal team is actually citing precedent where the Supreme Court ruled that you couldn't tell a pedophile that they couldn't loiter by a convicted, child molester, that they couldn't loiter by the playgrounds because you're assuming guilt or something like that. So they actually ruled in favor of the pedophiles.
Wow.
But I don't have a right to go in the woods. Give me a break. The other thing is, so there's that example that I hope, and also like you can take individual action. Everybody can kind of take an individual action, engage in a real process with the government, something that has teeth, get a paper trail going. I don't even think they're listening to protests anymore. You don't have to bring a ton of people and do a lot of organizing and go to a particular place on a particular day or anything like that. There are all kinds of things that you can do as an individual. I think that, if people woke up and realized how powerful they can really be as an individual, like the government would be in a lot of trouble. That's kind of what I was hoping, is that we can get some civility back in the civil disobedience, and also to set that example of, as an individual, I did this as an individual, and look at it. It's the biggest freaking story in the country right now, or so I'm told. It's hard to tell from where I'm sitting, but I just did freaking InfoWars last night, so it's definitely going somewhere. And I didn't do much. I called the Department of National Resources and made an appointment to come in to get a freaking $28,000 fine. So.
So the polite way of doing it.
I did do that.
Jeff Evely, thank you so much for joining. Stick around after this, but because I want to chat with you a bit more. But we're gonna call it for the stream. Thank you guys for coming out for this. It was not really announced. It was just impromptu, and I love to do it that way because then everybody gets to see it like surprise. But of course, tomorrow I'll be putting the video out as well, so check that out then. If you missed any of the stream, you can check it out all tomorrow morning. Thanks again, Jeff, for joining me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Clyde.